You know, we're dealing with it for a whole second. Inflation is a worldwide problem right now because of a war in Iraq and the impact on oil and what Russia's doing. I mean, excuse me, the war in Ukraine.
It's his whole other country.
So to restate, the perpetrator in this violent crime against Paul Pelosi is a mentally ill, drug-addicted, illegal alien nudist who takes hallucinogens and lives in a hippie school bus in Berkeley with a BLM banner and a pride flag out front. So take those uncontested facts and let them rattle around your brain for a moment until a recognizable pattern emerges.
Wow, wow. Ooh, sick burn.
Look. They want everybody to forget and forgive everything that happened during the pandemic. We were all in the dark. We were all afraid. Like, nah, bitch. Like, that was like we all got kidnapped and put together on an island, and then all of y'all bastards were like, we should eat them. And we're like, what the fuck? And then now they took us off the island, and we're just looking at you on the ride home like, and you're like, oh, wasn't that crazy? And we're like, nah, bitch. You tried to eat us. I didn't kick you out of those stores. I didn't ruin your job. I didn't tell you you couldn't come to the family reunion. I didn't tell you you had to drop dead of a heart attack because you didn't get the jab, so you're not welcome at this hospital. There ain't nothing to forgive on my side, baby boo. This is a you problem, and we're still talking about it.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. It's a difficult time.
What did you say?
Ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. It's a difficult time. But the future of labor was in the future.
Bro, what did you just say?
But the future of labor was in the future.
Then, America was saved. Embraced by the loving arms of our new president, Joe Biden. Biden has brought back kindness and decorum.
Liar, man. Look, here's the deal. No, I wish you were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
Biden is a voice of clarity.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was
a voice of reason.
He is the smartest man I know. He's gonna put you all back in chains.
And he's good with numbers.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. $700 billion and $1.3 trillion.
Under his leadership, the Biden administration has brought us safety. It has brought us economic prosperity. It has empowered the next generation. And now, you have the chance to make sure it continues for another 2 years. This election day, vote for whoever the Biden administration is asking you to vote for. They know what's best. Together, we will ensure things will continue to go the way they've been going forever and ever.
I'm Joe Biden and I approve this, wait, who? You know the thing.
So today, Dr. Oz is going to be standing with Donald Trump on the stage. And I'm going to be proud to be standing with a president that is 100% sedition-free.
Oh, the irony! It's too much!
And a historian 50 years from now, if historians are allowed to write in this country, and if there are still free publishing houses and a free press, which I'm not certain of, but if that is true, a historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
Are you fucking retarded? The hell's the matter with you?
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them and finally dismembered their bodies. bright,
then
available.
and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
The other day, the White House got a taste of what us peasants have been dealing with for years now when their tweet got fact-checked. See, they posted a tweet about how seniors are getting the biggest increase in their Social Security checks in 10 years through President Biden's leadership. The only problem with that is it's a little bit misleading, considering it's not like he just gave seniors more money. No, it automatically went up because the inflation went up so high. Ever since '72, it's been linked to the CPI, so when the inflation goes up, the Social Security checks go up to match that. So technically it is true, but they didn't want people to realize that the Social Security checks went up at a record height because the inflation went up at a record height. So when Twitter put this little context fact check on there, guess what they did? They deleted the tweet and just tried to pretend like that never happened. And in other Twitter news, Elon Musk announced that he might be charging $20 a month for people to maintain their blue check marks. And people started immediately freaking out, and he said, okay, well, how about $8? $8 a month sound better? So then Democratic Congresswoman and dipshit extraordinaire AOC decided to say, laugh my ass off at a billionaire earnestly trying to sell people on the idea that free speech is actually $8 a month subscription plan. Which, first of all, you got plenty of money. $8 a month to maintain your little blue check mark, which does come with some privileges, is not asking a whole lot. And secondly, if you don't pay the $8 a month, you can still have free speech. You can still use the platform. You just don't have your special little gold star. But his reply was epic. Your feedback is appreciated. Now pay $8. And then he trolled her for the fact that Little Miss Tax the Rich is selling sweatshirts online for $58 a piece. I know the jury's still out on Elon for a lot of people, and me too for that matter, but watching this shit is hilarious. And you know what else is hilarious? This. Now all of a sudden, as the facts are coming to light and can't be suppressed much longer, we want to have an amnesty. You know, let's just let bygones be bygones. It's water under the bridge, right? And it's all too perfect that this is coming out of the Atlantic, because they were some of the main ones on the front lines leading the charge of the anti-freedom, state-humping, boot-licking narrative. And now they want us to just forget about all that. Even people that got the fucking shit but said, hey, well, I don't think it should be mandated, they were labeled anti-vaxxers. People lost their jobs, they were erased from the internet, depersoned, shat upon, and threatened constantly. The doctors that spoke up were removed from social media, and they're still going after some of their licenses. And now you just want to, what, call a truce?
Absolutely fucking not.
For all the people that lost their jobs, their livelihoods, and sometimes their lives, we may eventually forgive some of you if you stop acting like such self-righteous assholes, but we ain't never gonna forget.
You're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy.
What goes through your mind when you hear a lot of the anti-vaccine rhetoric?
At this point, it seems criminal to me.
Vaccine-free and impacting the rest of us. It's like drunk drivers.
You got to identify those people and bring them out into the open, so you know who they are.
Ich kann sagen, also, sie sind wirklich zu prügeln, sind diese Menschen.
Ja, also
Und dann passiert
people who are not vaccinated away from those who are, given that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, then the safer we will be.
Gyms, hairdressers, but why not supermarkets? Why not public transport?
But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
We are looking at a winter of severe illness and death for unvaccinated.
Literally, the only people dying are the unvaccinated.
And we all need to remember that getting vaccinated keeps everyone in D.C. safe and stops the spread of COVID-19.
With these vaccines, we can extinguish this virus once and for all.
And for those of you spreading misinformation, shame on you. I don't know how some of you sleep at night who are doing this for a living on television.
Yes, fuck you all. And while we're on the subject of conspiracy theories that turned out to be spoiler alerts, you remember how for years now people have been saying that our First Amendment was getting violated because these big tech online platforms were silencing speech that went against government narratives? And people would say, the First Amendment doesn't apply to private companies. They can do whatever they want. And we would say, yeah, but they're doing it at the behest of the government. So only problem was you couldn't prove it. Until now. The Intercept broke this story the past week about how the Department of Homeland Security was working with Google and Facebook and Twitter to silence people that were speaking out and saying things that were against what the government narrative was. Facebook even had a special portal for DHS and other government employees to be able to report directly to them things that they felt should be removed. And some months back, they had that DHS Disinformation Governance Board that they tried to use to legitimize what they were already doing and are still doing now, but they had such backlash that they had to push it back underground and keep doing it secretly. Mainly because it's totally fucking a violation of the Constitution. And this is the one gripe I really have with the Constitution, is it has no mechanism of enforcement. See, it's supposedly the highest law of the land, right? But if you break that law, how do you get punished? Who punishes you? And what's the punishment? If you break any other laws like robbery, destruction of property, even murder, there's a prescribed process for charging, convicting, and then what that punishment will be for that infraction. But if somebody violates your constitutional right, something that's the highest law in the land, and that gets violated, who gets punished, and what's the punishment? There's just not even a framework set up for it. And for some reason, this story isn't really being covered at all by the big network TV stations.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
This is actually bigger than the Snowden leaks because they're not just spying on you, they're actually silencing you. This should be the biggest story in the country, but nope, not a fucking peep. And somewhere the disembodied head of Richard Nixon is sitting in a jar, and you know what he's saying?
I can't believe this goddamn shit. What I did was nothing compared to this, and nobody fucking cares.
Please, consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, Vladimir Putin will shoot another puppy. Here's another story that's had little to no attention paid to it as of yet. Many people from refiners to distributors to trucking companies have been warning about diesel shortages. We're down to a few weeks of a buffer and we're using it faster than we're producing it. And while most people go about their daily lives, visiting the grocery store or Walmart with absolutely zero thought as to how all those products make it onto those shelves, and soon they might very well get a crash course in what the lifeblood of our supply chain is. Spoiler alert, it's diesel. And some of the more mainstream news outfits are trying to tamp down fears with this condescending bullshit. No, the US is not going to run out of diesel fuel in 25 days. And this is exactly how the fact checkers lie. They take something out there that they don't like, they word it differently, debunk that, and then act like that debunks the whole idea behind it. See, nobody said we were going to run out of diesel fuel. They said we were going to be having shortages. That could affect availability of products. It sure as hell could affect the price. So it's going to be exacerbating problems that we're already having, and possibly in a major way. But hey, I'm sure it'll be fine, right? Now let's move on to some geopolitics. They just had an election down in Brazil, and the result is being contested. You've got the Bolsonaro people demanding that they do a recount and that the military oversee it. They got millions of people surrounding the military headquarters, and things are getting really ugly there really fast. And I don't know whether it's going to end up being Lula or Bolsonaro that winds up being the president, but either one of them is a prime candidate for getting Gaddafi'd, and by that I mean having a very sharp knife stuck up your turd cutter. So to both of these men, I would offer the exact same advice.
Watch out for your cornhole, bud.
Meanwhile, you got claims that now former Prime Minister Liz Truss's iPhone was hacked, and that moments after the Nord Stream pipeline blew, she sent a text message to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken saying, "It's done," from her personal, unencrypted iPhone. And then most likely right after that, she started receiving phone calls from leaders of all kinds of NATO countries, all saying the same thing.
You stupid bitch.
I can't help but wonder if this had anything to do with her abruptly resigning 45 days after taking this office. And in response to the attacks on the pipelines and the bridge thing to Crimea, Russia has been stepping up attacks and going after the Ukrainian infrastructure just in time for winter. And now you've got something like almost half of the country in the dark with no running water and like 80% of Kiev with no electricity. And a lot of this is being done with these kamikaze drones that Russia apparently got from Iran. And the West is being a little hypocritical about this.
Last night and today, many civilians were without water and electricity following Putin's devastating use of suicide drones. And I'll get you to explain what they are, destroying the electricity and water substations. This is a new level of cruelty, isn't it?
Some barbaric.
So all of a sudden, nobody remembers the Switchblade drones that we were shipping over to Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians just a few months ago were decimating the Russians with. And these are literally the same fucking things. Oh, but the Russians are going after civilian infrastructure. What's funny, nobody seemed to have a problem with what we did to the infrastructure of Iraq when we invaded that country. We bombed that shit to Kingdom Come, and nobody said a fucking word about it. And now the Russians have also pulled out of the deal to let the ships full of grains leave port in Ukraine for all over the world. Why? Because the Ukrainians were using boat drones to blow up their fucking fleet. And it's not like it's just an allegation, they actually fucking bragged about it. And now after all this talk of late about how the Russians are going to use a nuke or a dirty bomb in Ukraine, Putin came out in a public address and said, we have no reason to use nukes in Ukraine. And the very next day, what did the Defense Department do? They turn around and said, we're gonna reverse our little strategy about how we don't use nuclear weapons except for when it's a nuclear target, and we may use them anytime we want now. This is why I think it's gonna become a wider war. The people that are actually calling the shots and pushing the buttons and pulling the levers, they seem to want to do everything in their power to make things escalate and not de-escalate. It reminds me of February 2020, when the news was still telling everybody in America there's nothing to worry about. Sure, we got a handful of cases, but it's under control because we're taking people's temperature in these enhanced screenings. Meanwhile, for weeks, the doctors in Singapore and Japan and South Korea have been saying, no, this shit spreads asymptomatically. And they got their doctors dressed up like they're going on a fucking spacewalk. That was when I knew it was going to get bad, because they were seemingly doing everything they could to let it get bad. And as soon as there is some kind of major event that makes us no longer able to deny that World War III is something that is happening, you're going to see China make some moves on Taiwan. You're probably going to see North Korea make a move on South Korea. They've been firing missiles all week, and the South Koreans had to scramble jets because there was 180 fucking warplanes right off the border. And then probably the whole world economy is going to fucking implode. A lot of people are baffled as to how it's managed to keep on chugging down the road in the state it's been in. You look at it like, how the fuck is that thing still going? I mean, somehow it is. But it can't go on forever. And when it does finally break down, things like the great shit ticket panic of 2020 are going to seem like the good old days. And who's supposed to fight this World War III? This new generation of lazy fucks that can't even work 8.5-hour days?
And I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cried on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week. And then on weekends, they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out. And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers, and they are good.
Oh, you poor thing. Just wait till China cuts off your supply of happy pills or the precursor to make them. I'd strap yourselves in tight, because things are about to get a little bumpy. Slancha.
In this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. Come on. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. So say good night, so say good night, so say good night to the bad guy. I told you, don't fuck with me. 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 You stupid fuck. Look at you now. Look at you now.